Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you today? That's good. Today, we will learn about narrative text. Before discussing the material, what is narrative text? Does anyone know the meaning of narrative text? Okay, well, first definition narrative text. Narrative text is one type of text that tell about a series of events chronologically and connected to each other. The nature of narrative text is imaginative or in the form of a fictional story, which has the aim of entertaining the reader. Next, types of narrative text. Narrative has several types, namely fable, myth, legend, folktale, fairy tales, and love story. Fable is a story about animal. For example, a bear and a rabbit, the cat and the rat. Next, myth is a mythical story that developed in society and is generally considered a factual story or actually happened. For example, Ajisaka and Dewata Cengkar. Next, legend. A legend is a story that tells about how the origin of a place, the legend of Surabaya and the legend of Prambanan Temple. Next, folktale is a story passed down from generation to become part of the community tradition. For example, Maling Kundang. Next, fairy tales. Fairy tales are folk tales or children's story that have magic in the story told by their authors. For example, Tinkerbell. Next, love story is a story that tells the love triangle of the main character or about the love story of the characters. For example, Romeo and Juliet. Next is characteristic of narrative text. Specific character, past tense and time conjunction and adverb of time, action verbs, and the last direct speech. For specific characters in a narrative, the author will create a specific character as the main character in the story. No, not only the main character, but all the characters in the story will be written clearly, starting from the name, shape, color, and character. For example, Ariel the mermaid, the dwarfs who have different characteristics, and Mona the brave. Second, past tense. Because the writing in narrative text is a function of our imagination, therefore the grammar that is more commonly used the past tense. Usually, this grammar is very obvious if you read a legend or fairy tale that has an ancient setting. Third, time conjunction and adverb of time. Narrative text require a time conjunction as the relation of time such as when, before, after, and others to explain the chronology of an event. While a verb of time is needed in writing narrative text with the aim of showing the time when an event occurs, for example, once at a time, one day, and others. Next, action verbs. Action verbs is a verb that show an action for a character. Because the grammar used in narrative text is in the past tense, action verbs are also written in the second form. For example, loved, cried, walked, shamed, said, married, and others. Next, direct speech. If you read narration, you will surely notice that there are quotes taken from the conversation of the character in the story. This is also known as direct speech. Next, narrative text structure. First, orientation. Second, climax or complication. Third, resolution. And fourth, reorientation. Orientation is one of the characteristics of or structure of a narrative text that must be written in the beginning of story. In orientation, it usually begins with the introduction of the characters. When an event occurs, the background of the story and other explanation so that the reader understands and is familiar with the dimension in the story. Next, climax or complication. At the introduction, the story will be immediately followed by conflict and problems, which are also known as climax and complication. The problem present in the narrative usually involve the main character in a story. In this section, the reader usually begins to know who the antagonist and protagonist are. Next, resolution. Problems have occurred. We finally arrive at the conclusion of a story called resolution. Usually in this section, there is a solution to the problems in the complication section early. Problems solved can get better or worse. Later, a story will have a happy ending or sad ending. However, sometimes a story can also end with a twist ending and even a hanging ending to maintain interest and tension for the reader. Usually, texts that have this ending are in the mystery, thriller, or horror genre. Next, reorientation. Although there is already a cover or solution to the problem, there is also an optional reorientation section. This section is not always in a fiction because it usually only contains moral lesson, advice, or teaching from the others. Next is example of narrative text. For more detail, let's look at the example of narrative text. Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Cinderella. She lived with her stepmother and two stepsisters. The stepmother and stepdaughter didn't like Cinderella and treated her badly. Cinderella did the hardest work in the house, such as cleaning the house and preparing the food for the family. One day, a ball was being held by the royal family of the kingdom to find a spouse for the prince. Cinderella wanted to go, but her stepmother forbade her. Cinderella cried, but then a fairy godmother appeared beside her. "Why are you crying, Cinderella?" the fairy godmother asked. "Because I want to go to the ball, but my stepmother insists me that I stay at home," said Cinderella. "Besides, I don't have any beautiful dress." The fairy then turned Cinderella's ugly clothes become the most beautiful dress, complete with glass slippers. The fairy had also turned a pumpkin into the coach and the missed 6 white horses. Cinderella finally could go to the ball, but had to come back before midnight before the spell broke. Okay, that's the explanation of narrative text. If something is not clear, you can ask, "Well, any question?" If there are no questions, I want to give you an assignment. I will send it on WhatsApp, and please do it well. The deadline for assignment is Friday at 10 a.m. Thank you for your attention and thank you for today. I hope you understand the material and assignment. Stay healthy and have a nice day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.